right, so let's go back to what we were talking about a second ago, Marcellus, that Chris Paul probably would not have liked the sound of that. And I get it. Part of what makes him him is the way that he sees the world, the way that he approaches it.
Yeah.
Part of Doc's deal is he's got to find a way to communicate with his players. He's got to find a way to get those guys to buy into what it is that he wants to get done. But at some point, Chris Paul's got to say he can't just get his back up and say, no, I'm not listening, I'm not doing that, when you've never gotten out of that second round. This is still a question that he has to answer, and he's not in the beginning of his career anymore.
Yeah, look, I understand exactly what you're saying in terms of the principle and the essence of that dynamic. Like, there should be a reverence to the coach who's been to the promised land, and you as a player should always fall in line, except when you're talking about basketball and how we promote individuals, we promote stars, and that ego. And even if it's not ego-based, it's just the fact that you've been flattered, adored, and the adulation and adoration is just so tremendous that you think you know the way. Like, even if you haven't gotten there yet, the old cliche about men in the car with the map. Like, right. You know what I'm saying?
I'll figure it out.
Like, before I let you, honey, tell me where to go and make the right turns. So maybe Chris Paul just got caught up in that intersection of, hey, Doc, and the dynamic of his son being there, which has been well reported, is really difficult to level, because if you're Chris Paul, it's like, how do I give in to this guy who tells me, hey, I know the way? Then I see a decision that you made that tells me, do you know the way?
Yeah, that the whole Austin component of this is weird.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I don't care what it is. If your coach or your boss or whatever the dynamic is, if that person's child is in the ranks with the rest of you, it's weird.
It is.
There's no way around it, because guys, look, whether it's the boss, whether it's the coach, whether it's whoever, guys like to complain. Guys like to air it out amongst each other, and it's not always exactly meaningful. You know, it could just be if I'm having a bad day and he's on me and I'm upset about it and I'm going to let it go. But it's the guy's dad, and you're making, well, is he in here because of this, or is he in here because of that? It's just a bizarre dynamic.
Yeah, you know, people always talk about how, quote unquote, a lot of women gossip, but it's funny that in the locker room, everyone knows that men gossip way more.
Not close.
And dry snitches.
Yeah.
And pillow talkers. I mean, look, the way I've seen actual fist fights in the NFL in my 10 years were always the same blind common denominators. A woman or some money.
Yep.
And how it became an issue is always because the gas met the fire because of pillow talk. Like, we told you this, and then how did it get over there if only you and I were here? And there it is. Every time I see somebody get beat down, it was simply because of that.
Yeah,
dynamic.
no, you can take that to anytime you see two teammates fight and it's not in the heat of the moment about what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, you see in baseball all the time, a guy will come back to the dugout and look at another guy. It's because that guy should have scored or he missed a sign or something. So the guys are just mad about that. But
right.
If it's something that happens on an airplane, on a bus, in a locker room, it's those two.
What's her name?
Yeah, right. And how much?
And how much? Oh, man, it's a real thing. So I just think that the Clippers, look, they combine forces at the wrong time. Utah Jazz comes to mind. Houston Rockets, thank God Michael Jordan departed for a year and a half, 2 years. Sometimes you just form your Voltron at the wrong time. The Clippers formed theirs when the Golden State Warriors were like,
had a better Voltron.
Exactly.
They had a better Voltron.
Our turn.
Yeah, go back to the pillow talk, because I think that's really interesting, because that's one of the things that in this piece that Doc apparently was guilty of as well, that he was telling player A things about player B, telling player B things about player A just to try to smooth things over and have everybody get along. And then he's going out in the media and saying things that the guys in the locker room, and they use the example in this piece about JJ Redick, that, JJ was dying to stay here. And everybody's looking and like, well, we just know that that's not true. It's just blatantly not true. And that's a pretty good way to lose your guys too.
Yeah. When you seem out of touch, or worse, you're in touch and you're lying about being in that position. And I just think it was impossible. Let's start here. When we saw Dwayne Wade say, "Welcome to my house, LeBron James," they struggled at first, in part because who defers to who? Dwayne Wade, like, this is my mansion. This is Wade County, but you can have the master bedroom. And LeBron was like, look, I'll sleep wherever. And then Dwayne finally, and this has now been documented, had to finally say, "No, dog, this is your house. Like, I get it. I'm always going to be here, but I need you to take the reins." Chris Paul comes in when Blake Griffin is like, "I waited." And, rookie year, injured, obviously. So he's one of those rookies that had to sit out like Ben Simmons. Comes back, ballin'. World on fire. Blake Griffin's highlight material every night. Chris Paul's here. All of a sudden, you got to share that shine. That was never a level playing field.
This is the thing. I get it. The idea of, I'm the guy, it's my house. The LeBron and Wade thing is a tricky one because they'd both done it.
Yeah.
They both, Wade, I guess, had done it more so than LeBron because at that point he had won a championship without him. But
yeah, exactly.
LeBron was still the best player in the league, and LeBron's way works. So it's a weird dynamic with Chris Paul and Blake. Neither one of them had gotten, they're both stars, but neither one of them had the path.
Yeah.
And that's when, again, coming back to Doc Rivers, this is where I need the guy that does have the path to get involved.
Oh, no, you just described the leaky water hose. And I've seen this, you've seen this, the water hose that has the gray patch.
Sure.
Everywhere because day one is just one patch.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I ain't gonna buy no damn water hose. I'm just gonna patch this up. What happens? Something else. And the next thing you know, so you got the dynamic between Chris Paul, who's your best player, let's be respectful, and Doc Rivers. Then you add another patch. It's Blake and Chris Paul going at it. Then you add another patch. My backup is your son, and this dude woofing, and he can't shut it. And I'm like, what are he doing here? I'm trying to win championships. I'm getting destroyed by the media and by fans for not even advancing to the Western Conference Finals. And then I got to see you make a decision to pay this dude and have this dude, and I don't deem him worthy. Oh, man, and that's just the beginning. I ain't even got to, like, layer 3, layer 4, when you got DeAndre Jordan coming into the picture. He's like, where's my love? Like, Clippers were, as much as it was cosmetically great to watch, it was kind of set up on some sand. It was set up to fail.
And like you said, it was set up at a time that it didn't. Now, you don't want to say you don't do it. If you can have a team that's got DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, and Chris Paul, you do it, and you roll the dice, and you see what happens. But with what Golden State was doing, with LeBron was doing it then, he's still doing it right now, that wherever you are, you're still going to be behind that. And the Clippers not only were just getting picked off by the Warriors, they weren't even getting to the point where it's just, okay, we just got to get by these guys.
Right.
There was a list of 5 or 6 teams at any given time that were ahead of them. They just never got to the top, and now they are where they are right now, which is, I don't know what.
Shoulders up, shrugs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, no excuses for them either. They didn't do this. The league helped them do this. Remember, he was a Laker. Chris Paul, go back to when he gave his introduction speech. It was written for the Lakers. Like, he literally didn't even change it. He was like, this storied franchise in history. What? What?
Dude, we got to go through a second draft. You're going to have to put a second draft to that.
So all that said, good effort. Certainly a lot of highlight material, but they're in a weird place, to the point where Jerry West came in and said, I don't know what y'all been thinking down here, but upstairs in Golden State, we knew to blow this thing up because y'all never going to beat anybody worth a damn.
There's another guy that knows the way. There's another guy that, and everybody, I don't care if you're Chris Paul or whoever else, if you don't listen to him, you're an idiot.
Yep.
Because he's done it 100 different ways in 100 different places, and it's worked every single time. You better listen to that guy. All right. There's a new